CM Punk vs John Cena at WWE Night of Champions 2025 was a match that had one of the loudest crowd reactions of all time. Something like The Rock vs Hogan at WrestleMania 18, pushing a limited match to the next level with a noise that could deafen you through the screen, even if it was a little bit predictable in its closing moments. WWE did their best to try and ruin it by deploying the entire roster to the ring for the finish, presumably in the hopes that they got the rub from the big names involved in the match. WWE also gave the match an uphill battle to fight, with a particular segment between Punk and Cena that aired on the SmackDown before Night of Champions. You're watching Sportskeeda Wrestling, my name is Liam, and today we're going to be asking if basic Punkanomics was the worst promo of CM Punk's career. But before we go any further, don't forget to hit subscribe and click the little bell icon to be notified first about all of our newest videos. It will also help us out a lot on our push to 200k. We would be very grateful. Thank you, and on with the video. So, what is basic Punkanomics? Well, it all began on a June 2025 episode of SmackDown, as John Cena and CM Punk began hyping their match for Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. As Punk lay writhing in the broken remains of a Slim Jim table, Cena sat himself down on the turnbuckle and got on the microphone. What followed was both a response and homage to CM Punk's infamous pipe bomb promo from 2011, which Punk cut on a beaten-up John Cena who was prone in similar fashion. Punk voiced his frustrations, he broke the fourth wall, he made references, etc, etc, you know it by now. Cena's response, over a decade later, was cut in for Punk, who was widely implied to be a sellout and also implied to be widely disliked in the WWE locker room. In response, WWE thought to themselves, maybe Punk should imitate Cena next. And that's where we get to the subject of our video today. The night before Night of Champions, Punk walked out with John Cena's basic Thuganomics as his entrance music, dressed like Cena used to in his rapper days. On the screen behind him, in giant letters, read the words, Punk Life. Yep, here's CM Punk, here's the shark, and here is CM Punk jumping the shark. You see that over there? That's CM Punk on a jet ski. In this obvious parody, CM Punk made his way to the ring to confront John Cena, and oh boy, did he have something prepared for the occasion. But before we go into the content of the segment, let's briefly talk about the costume. Not something that CM Punk has exactly been known for, comic impersonations of other wrestlers, though he did impersonate Jeff Hardy once in 2009, but that was simply done to fool the audience into thinking it was the real Jeff, who had recently left the WWE. It was a stunt designed to get heat, and it had a point to it. CM Punk was making fun of the audience, he wasn't the good guy. Plus, it was genuinely hard to tell if it was Jeff Hardy or not at the beginning of the entrance. The Cena impersonation was not that at all. There was no prank here, and if there was, the joke was on CM Punk, who looked so out of character that it was like 1995 Vince McMahon was back in gorilla position, spinning the whole thing up on some kind of dreadful brimstone typewriter. You can tell what they were going for, a kind of DX impersonates the McMahons or Shawn Michaels impersonates Hulk Hogan kind of thing. But the anti-establishment, best in the ring, best on the mic, straight edge means I'm better than you sentiments of CM Punk have never fitted well with that style of sports entertainment. Which is probably why he never did that kind of stuff during his first run with the WWE, even though he did once wear Triple H's blazer to do commentary. And looking back, it was quite nice of Triple H to let him wear that. But when Punk got to the ring on this edition of SmackDown, it all got so much worse. He began to imitate Thuganomics John Cena in the most literal sense, in that he had a whole diss track prepared to drop on Big Match John. It did not go great. Now, before you get all mad about this, we will give credit where credit is due. CM Punk did get a few zingers in there, but other than that, this was one of the shakier promos of Punk's entire career, let alone his current run. To say that this was not 8 Mile would be putting it lightly. It was more like that clip of Steve Buscemi where he's like, how do you do, fellow kids? Punk's rap in here even got us thinking, wow, maybe we've been a little bit harsh to Travis Scott on this channel. Joking aside, it wasn't the worst thing in the world in terms of coherence. We got everything that CM Punk was trying to say, he just didn't seem very convinced that this is how he should be saying it. Punk also fumbled some of his lines towards the end of the rap, at some important moments including his bar about Dave Bautista being a better actor than John Cena, which robbed the segment of any aura it had left, if it ever had any aura at all. This is CM Punk, a man who has prided himself and was known for being the best on the microphone, as he noted in the original pipe bomb promo. We are used to him annihilating these geezers with his words, not tripping over them. He may have come up with the whole idea himself in what he thought was a stroke of genius, we don't know. Regardless though, he did seem a little uncomfortable during the segment. Internet wrestling types, such as us, predictably took to social media and other platforms to express just how much they disliked the promo, with the consensus being that this wasn't a CM Punk promo, but rather a Phil Brooks promo, and not in the cool "this is Phil Brooks talking to Paul Levesque" way from the early 2010s. This is maybe what Punk meant when he said he was here to make money and not to make friends. And on the topic of Paul Levesque, some on the internet have placed the blame for the segment squarely on the man formerly known as Triple H, which is understandable when you consider that he's the man overseeing the WWE creative process, not to mention the obvious attempts to replicate DX-style humour from the late 90s and mid-2000s. It's pretty standard procedure for the booker of a company to come under fire after a bad match, promo, or storyline. It happened to Vince McMahon for decades, and it's happening to Tony Khan now, in the same way that a manager or coach comes under fire for a poor outing in the world of team sports. The performers and athletes do shoulder some of the blame because they were the ones involved on a physical level, but the majority of the blame is always going to fall on the person who let the whole thing go ahead. And of course, if you want to be a conspiracy theorist about it, you could argue that the segment was planned out by Triple H as a punishment for Punk for undermining WWE on so many occasions in the past when he wasn't with the company. This is ultimately pretty baseless though, given that Triple H hired CM Punk back to begin with and has given him a pretty decent win-loss record since then. He even gave him his long-awaited WrestleMania main event. Maybe Punk is just one of the main event faces in WWE, but he's still a main event level talent. He's had memorable matches like his Hell in the Cell match with Drew McIntyre, and everyone seems to be professional about it. WWE higher-ups wouldn't hire a guy back just to make him look foolish in front of the world now, would they? Would they? Cena and Punk did manage to pull things back somewhat with the match itself the next night, as noted at the top of this video. It took place in front of one of the most raucous crowds of all time, with half the Raw roster coming out to get involved in the finish, and Cena capitalising on all the carnage to leave Saudi Arabia still the WWE champion. But it was more than enough spectacle to do complete damage control on their stumble the previous night. And hey, that Charles Robinson bump did go hard. We'll probably look back at basic Punkanomics as a slight bump in the road in a few years' time, if we remember it at all, because all things considered, it wasn't that big of a fumble, and CM Punk is well liked and well respected enough to survive it with very little aura debt. The reaction to it was probably so bad at the time because we weren't used to seeing CM Punk act like this, and we're still probably living in hopes that it'll be a one-off. With WWE though, you can never tell. CM Punk and WWE might get lucky here with minimal damage, and they'll see basic Punkanomics as a warning of some kind. Still though, we're not opposed to seeing another appearance of those drug-free branded knuckle dusters. That's all the gold CM Punk could ever ask for, right there. And that's it for another one. What did you think of basic Punkanomics? Was it a shark jump for CM Punk, or did they save it the next night? You can tell us all of your thoughts in the comment section down below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Sportskeeda Wrestling to see more content just like this. You can also enable those notifications so you never miss one of these videos when they drop. You've been watching Sportskeeda Wrestling, my name is Liam, and we'll see you in the next one.